All right, here we go back for part two. First part, we were writing to a file, and of course, thing like a high scores list. If we write a high scores list to a file, we're going to want to get that data in at some point. And what's nice, it's not that difficult. It's not that much more different than outputting to a file, as we'll see. The first statement's almost exactly the same. We have a stream number and a file name that's we're trying to get, that we're trying to open, and that file is going to be open for getting instead of putting. Put is for output, and get is for input, so that makes complete sense. We still have an assert statement. That's pretty important for reading a data from a file. When we're outputting, it's rarely that Turing fails on being able to output to a file, but if we're reading in from a file, if the file's not found, then we use this assert statement to make sure it's working okay. And then it's exactly what you would think. Instead of put colon stream number and stuff to read, we have get colon stream number and then stuff to read. So this is the idea, is it'll get connected to the file, and then it'll come in and be stored in probably whatever variable that we wanted to say there. Or, as we'll see, and we'll show this very shortly, get stream number, stuff to read, colon star. Just like when we wanted to get a whole line of stuff from the keyboard, we get a whole line of stuff from the file. And that'll, we'll have to develop our skills a little bit about which one that we'd want. And it depends on how the file is set up in the first place. And the file is set up however we would like it to be set up as programmers. So that's going to be flexible for us, and we'll see the difference as we get into the example. So it's get colon. Remember, colon has always to do with file handling, the stream number, and then some variable names. Notice an important command here is going to be the exit when EOF. EOF stands for end of file. End of file stream number. And stream number, of course, is the file that we're reading from. So this is a line that we're going to be putting in a loop. And so when we open and connect to a file for input, we can get all that stuff from a file, and it's going to quit when it gets to the end of the file, EOF, end of file. And then, of course, close a file after we've read it in, if we want to do that. So I think, was there anything else? Oh, note. A couple of notes. A file cannot be open for getting and putting at the same time. So this would be one use of the word close. So for instance, a good example would be at the start of a program, you're going to load all the highest scores, and then that would be open for getting. You get it from the file and read it into your program. Then you close it, and then after whoever plays your game, you want to output the new high scores. Well, then you're going to open the file for putting, and you're going to put the high score list back. All right, so let's fire up Turing here. I'm going to get rid of my old program, start a new program. In this case, I'm going to var, and just so you're not confused here, I'm going to call it file2 integer, and then this is my first try at inputting from a file. And of course, you should be, for your big programs, you should be using a header and lots of good comments and all that stuff. So we're going to open file2, and what should we call it? Well, we called the other one my first file. And notice that if I wanted to just read in from this file, I could, but I'm gonna make another file, my second file.txt, for get. And then I'm going to assert file2 is greater than 0. And what I'm going to do is var input from file. So this is the idea, is the stuff is going to come in from the file into this. I'm going to use this as my variable that I'm going to use to get from the file, and we'll see that in a second. And so we're going to loop almost the same program, and we're not interacting with the user. It's going to come straight from the file, so it's going to get from file to, and I'm going to say input from file. And I'm going to say exit when EOF file 2, end of file 2. So that's it. And then I'm just going to print it out. Put, and I'm not going to put to a file. I just want to put it to the screen to show you that it works. Okay. And then I'm going to end loop and close the file. We're going to add to this before the end of the video here. Close file 2. Right now, if I ran it, I'll run it, but it's going to be an error. What's the error? The error says assert condition is false. It couldn't find that file. So what I need to do is I need to create this file somehow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as on my desktop. I'm going to call it input from file .txt. And then I need to actually create this file called mysecondfile.txt. And I could do that in Notepad, or in fact, I could even do it in Turing if I wanted to. So this is a bunch of stuff in a text file. And I'm going to file save this as, I could do this in Notepad, and I like Notepad better. So what did I call it? I called it my second file, and I want to save it as a txt. So I'm going to see if I can do that. .txt. I hope it doesn't save it as a Turing file. No, it looks like it saved it as my second file.txt. I'm going to go out to my desktop just to make sure that it looks okay. My second file right there. This is a bunch of stuff in a text file. Dandy. And so I'm going to run this. And I may get I'm hoping that I do actually get an error. My input from file. So it's going to print it out to the screen. Let's see. There we go. This is a bunch of stuff in a text, and then it stopped. Why? Because it got to the last thing in the file, and then exited. So it never actually printed out the text file. Notice also that in my text file, there was a bunch of stuff on the lines, right? So it got one word at a time. It saw a new space and only grabbed one thing at a time. Okay, and this might be good, but it's also a kind of a hassle. If I wanted to print it out exactly the way it appeared, what I would do is I would add that colon star at the end, and I'll show you how that's going to look a little bit different. And maybe now I'll get, this is a bunch of stuff in a text file doesn't get written because after it reads this in, it tests whether it's at the end of the file, and then the input from file is actually the end of file character, so it gets broken. So you say, well, what I might want to do is like put an enter there or a space so it actually reads something. And this is a little bit of a hassle too, as we'll see. Now if I were to save that and run this again, program interrupted. Why? Close that actually. Run this again. So that worked. Now, what you'll notice is at times you're going to get input past end of file, and it might be that your program is getting confused about spaces at the end of a line or spaces at the when exactly does the end of the file occur. Well, what happened in this text file was that, well, it happened a line down here, right? I can't go any further. I'm pressing arrow down, but the file ends there. And there's a couple of, like there's an enter there, and there's another enter there that Turing actually reads, and that might not be what you want to do. And there's a way around this, okay? And it's a little bit confusing, but I'm going to mention this so that you have another trick in your text text file handling. And this is the last note. Get : stream number skip. What skip does is skip ignores the spaces at the end of a line or at the end of a file. Is a way around missing the EOF because the file has some spaces in the wrong spot, as it says. So what would this look like? It might look like this. Get file, input from file, skip. Okay, so that won't get any, stream number skip. So it checks the end of file. And actually we can put that on a different line. Get file to skip. In a text, notice that it's picking off the one word at a time. And this kind of, what it does, it does skip some lines. It skips a line if that's what you need it to do. If you're getting an error that something like trying to read past end of file, you need to put this line in there somewhere. Okay, so put a little star in your note so you remember that if you get that error message. Our program was working just fine before. I'm going to comment that out and put in my colon star so it gets the whole line, and that's going to work all good. I'll make sure it doesn't. Yeah, that looks just fine. I want to show you something though, right? Let's say, just for instance, I wanted to count the number of words. So this is a new variable. I'm just going to have a variable called count, and it's going to start at 0. And here I'm going to put in the line count equals count plus 1. So it's just going to count how many words. And right now, I can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words. If I run this, I want to close the file, and then I'm going to put count out at the end. Oh, I forgot my colon. Run. That it says 5. Well, why did it do that? It did that because it counted the lines. This 5 was the number of lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, not 5 words. So if I got rid of this colon star, it should count the number of words in the file instead of the number of lines. So let's try that again. Oh, there. Attempt to read past EOF. Well, that's what we need the get file to skip for. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it actually counts the last one, even though it never gets a chance to print off the last one. So the get file skip got rid of that error, the reading past the end of the file, and the counting the words actually worked, even though the last one wasn't printed out, which was a bit strange. Okay, lovely. Let's get that into our note. And I'm sure after we do that, after we do that, there's going to be some exercises in there. Absolutely. Remember, the whole idea in this unit is to try and practice, not that one, practice some of these skills. And in the exercises, you're going to, when you have some successful exercises, you're going to select those in a few days and hand in little bits and pieces of the exercises. There's not going to be a programming assignment to practice this material because it's almost time for your final project. That's going to be your final big project, is putting all this stuff together. Now, with that said, remember the idea is you're going to do one of these things on your final project. You have to do one of them. You could do more if you like. All right, so there is input from files and output from files. Remember to save your note. That's all I'm saying. Okay.